Good morning, everybody. Good morning from Texas. This is Rodolfo Hernandez Guerrero. I have the pleasure, the honor to welcome you to this information session for new international students attending the University of Texas at Dallas in fall 2022. Again, my name is Rodolfo Hernandez. I'm Assistant Director of Intercultural Programs. This office, Intercultural Programs, leads the university community in opportunities that foster global engagement. And we're trying to do this global engagement in two different ways, by generating experiences that promote, develop, and enhance intercultural competence, and also by supporting the integration of international students into campus life. And precisely this information session is about that, providing you tools, resources, information, knowledge for you to enhance a smooth transition from your home community to the UT Dallas University, your host community in a few days from now. So we are very much privileged by the fact that you are coming to UT Dallas because we know you had many options around the world, and ultimately you have decided to attend UT Dallas to pursue the next chapter in your life, the next academic chapter in your life. And in intercultural programs, certainly we want to ensure that you have a successful cultural and academic experience. So welcome in advance to the University of Texas Dallas. And today's information session is in collaboration with an amazing partner. This is a traditional partnership between intercultural programs and Bursar's office, in particular with Lisa Davis, who is the Assistant Director of Student Accounts at the Bursar's office. Today, our intention is for you to know everything relevant related to paying your tuition and fees, and some good recommendations and tips from somebody who is in the daily routine in the Bursar's office, Lisa Davis, who will provide the guidance for a successful understanding of what are the implications and responsibilities and privileges in terms of tuition and fees at UT Dallas. Next slide, Anthony. Before we begin in the presentation by Lisa Davis, I would like to share with you some event logistics. You can see us and you can hear us, but we cannot see you, we cannot hear you. However, we'll be opening a questions and answer session at the end of this presentation, and then you will be able to post your questions, your comments, your doubts on the right column, where you will see the chat of the information session. Right now it's closed, and we'll open that chat at the end of the presentation of the officer of Bursar's office. And certainly, in many circumstances, you may have many questions, many doubts or concerns. And if for some reason it's necessary to stay here with you more than 60 minutes, we'll be happy to do it because we want to be comprehensive. We want to really ensure that you have as full information as possible for a successful transition, again, to the UT Dallas community from your home communities. So with no further ado, Lisa Davis, welcome to Intercultural Programs. Thank you very much for sharing this moment and for sharing your expertise with new international students coming to UT Dallas in fall 2022.
Thank you, Rodolfo. I'm happy to be here this morning. I know it's morning where I'm at. I know it could be various times of the day where you are, students, potential students. I do look forward to sharing this information with you. There is a lot of great information that is going to focus mainly on how UT Dallas charges their tuition, options for paying. There's a lot of things that we do in our office, and I will share those things with you this morning. If you could go ahead and go to the next slide. And we'll get started. So some of the functions of the Bursar office include assessing, billing, and collecting on all tuition and fees. You can go ahead and hit enter and go to the next. I think it's going to go through as I say them. If you want to go ahead and click them all, that would be fine too. Excuse me this morning. We also collect on on-campus housing charges. So if you are living on campus, our office would actually have those charges on your bill. We do not determine those charges. We can't tell you if those charges are correct, but we can tell you how much you are being charged for housing, because that will be on the bill that does show up in our office. The difference between assessing, billing, and collecting on tuition and fees, and then just having the campus housing charges and the meal plan charges, we just collect on the housing and the meal plan. We do not, again, we do not determine those charges. If you were to call our office and ask us, you know, I'm being charged for 9 credit hours for graduate, can you please tell me if my tuition is correct? We're going to be able to look at that, and we're going to see that that's correct for you. If you ask us to look at your bill and you say, well, this isn't the amount on my housing contract, or this is not how much I was supposed to be charged for my meal plan, we're not going to know for sure what your contract says. That would, each of those departments have their own office that you can work with them on that contract. But you can see it on our bill just to make it easier for the student to pay. We do put it all on the same bill. So we can answer any questions you have about the billing statement. So anything you see on your bill, if you see a student insurance charge or maybe a class related fee, because there are other fees that may show up on your bill. And we'll talk about a little bit about that as we go through, like what type of charges you may see on the bill. And we can always answer any questions about those charges. We also implement our payment and refund schedule. So the payment and refund schedule, I'll go over that here in just a few minutes. And then we maintain our online services through EasyPay. That is where you can make your payment. And again, we'll discuss some of this as we go through. And then we also process any type of refunds. Some of the things that we get asked a lot that we do not do, we do not award financial aid. So if you are wanting to try to take out a private loan, that's not something that our office can help you with. We do not award financial aid. So if you're looking for scholarships or loans or assistance paying your tuition, our office does not do that. If you are questioning your residency, our office also does not determine your residency status. So if you're wanting to find out why you're paying out-of-state tuition versus in-state tuition, residency rate versus non-residency rate, you may hear me call it different things when I'm talking about our tuition. You may hear me say in-state or out-of-state. You may hear me say resident or non-resident. That's the same thing. So we do not determine which rate you're going to be charged. That is all done through the admissions office. And then if you have questions regarding that, you would talk to the residency office. So those are two things we do not do, and I will not talk a whole lot about it, but you may hear me repeat later on the same thing for those that come in late, for those that maybe didn't catch it. So you may hear me say that a couple of times about not awarding financial aid and not determining your residency status. So please don't get frustrated with me if you hear me repeat that. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So how does tuition work here at UT Dallas? So I think it should be this slide. Maybe it is in the wrong order. There should be another slide in there that talks about how tuition works at UT Dallas. Go back, sorry, go back one. Right after the Bursar office functions. No? Okay, I guess it's on mine. For some reason, it's not showing up on that one. So I'll go ahead and tell you how tuition works at UT Dallas. So UT Dallas uses what's called tuition plans as opposed to a per credit hour rate. So some universities and colleges, if you've been to in the past, if you've been to another university or college, they use what's called a per credit hour rate. A per credit hour rate is just basically, it's exactly how it sounds. It's a set rate for, 1 credit hour. So if it's 1 credit hour is $200, every credit hour would be $200. So if you take, just to make it simple here, if you take $200 and you're taking 10 credit hours, it would be $2,000. That's a per credit hour rate. You take the per credit hour rate and you times it times how many credit hours you're in. UT Dallas does not use a per credit hour rate. We use what's called a tuition plan. And a tuition plan is, and I'll show you that here in just as we go through the slides. But a tuition plan is basically a set rate for a set number of credit hours. So if you take the amount and divide it by the number of credit hours, it's not going to be the same rate as you go down the chart. Again, I'll show you that. It can be a little confusing, so please always feel free to email our office if you have any questions about what you see on your tuition or what you see on our tuition rates when you're doing any kind of estimate or when you're looking at the actual chart. All new incoming students will have the opportunity to choose between 2 rate plans, and that's what's on this screen here. This is a one-time choice. So once you're admitted to the university, the very first semester that you're admitted, that is the semester that you will choose your rate plan. And I'll go over these rate plans here. And I think we have the wrong presentation up because this one looks like it has the dates for last year. I think that could be why we're having an issue. I think this looks like this is the spring presentation, Rodolfo.
Lisa, did you send a new version to us?
I did.
We didn't receive. Maybe you sent it only to Flower.
I
we
did.
We not copy to us. I sent you email and this morning about the updates.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did send that to Flower. I apologize, everyone. I don't know if we can.
Lisa, you can resend forward that to me, and we'll be replacing this presentation with a new one. We can do it in a matter of 1 minute.
Okay. If everybody can pause here for just a second and give us just a minute. We want to make sure we're giving you the correct information, and so with all the correct dates and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for you.
Thank you, Anthony. We'll be in process to substitute the presentation.
Who do you want me to send it to?
To me, Lisa. That will be the easiest way. Yes.
Sorry. Email. Oh, that you did email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just attach it to this one.
Well, this is happening, Lisa. I have a historical question that we received from international students quite often. Why is called your office Bursar's office?
Okay.
What is the meaning of Bursar? Can you explain that to us, to the students, while we're doing the technical substitution of the presentation?
Yes. I will definitely do that. So the Bursar is kind of an old term for student accounts. A long time ago, I guess whenever colleges and universities started, they started talking about this term, which meant the keeper of the money or the keeper of the purse. Is technically, if you actually look up the term Bursar, it says the keeper of the purse. And so if you think of a purse that, someone carries and they keep their wallet and their money and all their, their important stuff when they're going around to go shopping or do whatever, that's what that term actually means. It means keeper of the purse or keeper of the money. And so basically that's what Bursar means. And so you'll hear some universities still call it a Bursar office. Many universities have got away from calling it Bursar office because, it's not that common of a word that you hear anymore. And they've kind of changed it to student accounts. So basically like I said, the functions of the office is basically keeping up with the student accounts. What's going to go on your account? Even though our office isn't responsible really for charges, any of the charges, we don't determine how much you're going to be charged in your tuition. But when you register, that's how your bill is created. So we're responsible for, making sure those charges are correct, making sure those balances are paid on behalf of the university. And so we definitely do get that question a lot, Rodolfo. What does Bursar mean? That's such a weird word, and so if you think of the word student accounts, it's the same. So if you've been to another, U.S. university and you've heard the word student accounting office, that's basically what it's the same thing. It's the same as the Bursar office, but it is an interesting word, and
Yes.
you'll have to remember, because if you're going to email us. You're going to email us at bursar@utdallas.edu.
Thank
We
you,
do have
Lisa.
we do have a student accounts email as well, but that's not one that you're going to use on a regular basis, so I don't give that out here. But later on down the line, we may, have to give it to you to use. But again, we're going to use the bursar@utdallas.edu. So this is what I was talking about. I do apologize. I probably should have made sure I got to everyone. So you can see here that it is a one-time choice. So again, we use tuition plans versus per credit hour rate. You'll have the opportunity to choose between two plans. This is a one-time choice. You only choose it. You don't choose it every semester. You only choose it that one first time that you come into the university. Once you make your choice, no changes can be made to your choice. So it's very important that you go on and you compare those rates just to make sure you understand the difference between the rates. I'll give you some suggestions on how to help you make that determination. Because again, we want to make sure, since it's a one-time choice, that you know how you're choosing. If you don't make a choice before the deadline has passed, because there is a deadline to make a choice, then you will be defaulted into one of the plans. We'll default you automatically into a plan. You should have received or will be receiving an email with instructions on how to go out and look at those comparisons, and also how to select that tuition plan. So once you're admitted to the university, we just recently started sending out those emails, and so you may or may not have already received an email letting you know how to go out and look at those comparisons. You can go ahead and move on to the next slide. And this is where I'm going to explain what the two rates are. So again, all new incoming students will have the opportunity to choose between these two rate plans. One is the variable tuition plan. And so this is the plan that all students will be defaulted into. So if you do not choose a plan and you've registered for classes, your charges will show up as the variable tuition rate charges. If you decide that you want to go on and choose the other plan, then they'll change later. But for all students, they're automatically defaulted into the variable plan. And on the variable plan, the rates on this one do start out a little bit lower, but they are subject to change every year. So it's usually going to be good for a fall, spring, and summer session. Now, for our incoming students this fall, the rates that are posted right now on our variable plan are only for the fall semester. They are, if you have been looking at our tuition rates previously within the last few weeks or the last month or so, you're probably going to notice that the only rates that were there were last year's rates. So the 21-22 rates were there. So the one that started last fall that ends this summer. They did not change the rates for this coming fall. So the rates that you see for fall 22 are the same rates that people in the summer, this past summer, and people in the spring and last fall got charged on the variable rate. There will be a notice on that screen when you look at the rate that they are subject to change in the spring. So because they didn't change, they may change sometime within this academic year. We can't guarantee that this rate will be good for the next three, for the fall, spring, and summer of this coming academic year. This is the first time that's happened, but again, you're being charged the same rates as the students last year that came in. So again, normally it would be every year annually, it would change. So it would be good for 3 terms. This one happens to just be good for the 1 term. And then again, you can see here, I say new variable plans begin each fall term, which is true. It's just because we're using last year's rates for this coming fall, it may be subject to change starting in the spring or summer. And then another new plan would come out next fall in fall of 23. We have another plan that you can choose. It's called the Guaranteed Tuition Plan, and that actually locks the rate in for 4 consecutive years. So the same rate that you see online right now for the Guaranteed Plan, which the Guaranteed Plan also did not change from last year, that rate will be guaranteed all the way for 4 years. So if you check if you choose the Guaranteed Plan, whatever rate you're paying this coming fall, you're going to pay the same rate for next fall for the same amount of hours, the next fall. You know, it goes all the way through for 4 consecutive years. This is designed to help students and families to budget so they know exactly how much they're going to pay for 12 hours, how much am I going to pay for 9 hours. And so it kind of gives you an idea of how much how much you're going to pay. With the variable plan, you don't really know because it, like I said, it could change every year and it could be from 3 to 6% every year. And then once the 4 years is up, if for some reason you're still here after 4 years, maybe you're an undergraduate student and you have, a few more years of undergraduate, and then you're going to go into a graduate program that's going to take you beyond 4 years at our university, you would just default after that plan expires, you would just go to the next active plan. So you wouldn't jump all the way up to the brand new plan for the year that your plan expires. You would actually just go up to the 23-24 plan. So it does save you those years of rate increases. Please remember that students are only charged for the terms they're registered for. So just because we're locking in your rate for 4 years doesn't mean we're going to charge you 4 years worth of tuition. We're only going to charge you for the semesters that you are attending and for the rate that you're, the number of hours that you're in. So if you're 9 hours one semester, you're going to be charged for 9 hours. If you're in 12 for another, you're going to be charged for 12 for that semester. So you're only charged for the number of credit hours and the terms that you attend. The variable plan is a good plan for students who only maybe have a couple more years to finish up. And so because again, the variable plan does start out a little bit lower. So you have to think about how long am I going to be at UT Dallas? Is it going to be worth it for me to lock my rate in for 4 years because I know I'm going to be here for a little while? Or do I have a year or 2 or maybe 3 to go and maybe the rate increases, the difference in the charges right now are not worth it for me to go on the guaranteed? So kind of keep that in mind. How long do you think you're going to be here? There are rate comparisons out on our website. You can see here that you can do a comparison of the 2 rates over a 4-year period. And then again, the deadline for choosing a plan is August 11th for the fall term. If no plan is chosen, again, you will be defaulted automatically into the variable plan. So we do go ahead and put you on that lower rate plan, but again, that one is subject to change. So we want to make sure you're taking the time to look at the rates to make sure you're in the plan that you want to be in. And we can go ahead and move on. This is just an example of our tuition plan. It can be somewhat confusing when you first look at it. What you're going to see here is you're going to look to see, am I a resident student or a non-resident student? Most of you are probably non-resident students. So we're going to say, then we're going to look and say, okay, we found non-resident. Are we a non-resident undergraduate or are we a non-resident graduate student? So then we're just going to use the graduate student because we do have a lot of international students who are graduate students. So we'll just go here on the non-resident graduate rate. Most of the students who are coming in and taking classes are going to fall within the first column, which says fall, spring, 11-week summer session. So most students, if you're taking anything within the fall or spring, that's a full-term session. Even if you are taking an 8-week session as well, you're always going to go by the 11-week or the full fall spring session. Again, if you're only taking an 8-week class and you're not taking any full term sessions, or in the summer you only take a 5-week class and you do not take a full session, you could go by the other 2 columns. But for most purposes, you're going to go by the first column that says fall, spring, 11 weeks. So if you're an undergraduate non-resident, you would go with the one that says fall, spring, 11 week for under non-resident undergraduate. So again, like I said, it can be a little confusing, but we can always help you understand it. One thing you would look for after you find which residency status you are and what grade level you are, or academic level, you're going to look down the side where it says credit hours, and you're going to go to the number of credit hours you're enrolled in for that semester, and then you're just going to kind of scroll across to whichever line falls for you. So if you're kind of glancing at it, you've had a little bit of time to look at it, you can actually see this is actually the variable plan for the fall. So you probably actually taken the time to look to see how much is it for 9 hours for graduate non-resident student. Here's how much it is. So, but I do suggest that you go out and do the comparison. You go look at the guaranteed rate. You go look at the variable rate. Please understand this. We want to make sure that students understand this. Excuse me, that resident refers to a Texas resident. So if you are a resident of Texas, you would fall under the resident status. If you are a non-resident of Texas, then you would fall under non-resident. Sometimes students get confused and think that non-resident means a non-US resident, but it really just means a non-resident of Texas. So someone in California is going to be charged the same rate as someone in China because they're both non-residents of Texas. So we want to make sure that's clear that it's not a US non-resident and a US resident. It's a Texas resident and Texas non-resident. So you can go ahead and move on to the next slide. And I'm going to take a drink real quick. Sorry about that. So if you need some kind of an estimate before our tuition comes out. So every semester when you register, just because you register doesn't mean your bill will be ready. About 6 to 8 weeks prior to the beginning of each semester, we will start billing for, we will post our bills for our students. So you're a brand new incoming student, you're probably going to be registering a little bit later. So once you register, our bills probably will already be out. But when you come back in the spring, we open registration, I guess probably late October, early November for our spring session. And that's not within 6 to 8 weeks of the term starting. So your bill wouldn't be ready, but there are times that students may need to provide documentation for a sponsor, or they may need to secure a loan for that next semester. So they may need an estimate. And even for now, if you're needing an estimate, you could still do this as an admitted student, even maybe before you even register. So sometimes before you register, you may need something showing how much the estimate may be, so that if somebody's going to be paying on your behalf, they might want to know how much it's going to cost for those credit hours. So we do offer a tuition estimate prior to our tuition calculating each semester. So prior to that 6 to 8 weeks, currently admitted students, they can obtain that through their Orion Self Portal. So once you're an admitted student, you get access to the Orion Self Portal. You just go to your Bursar account, and then you can find the tuition estimate, and it will ask you how many hours do you plan to be in, do you plan to live on campus, and then you hit search, and then it'll give you an estimate right there, and you can actually print that out for yourself. After your tuition is calculated, once the bills are ready, and we've already done that, it's within that 6 to 8 week period, you can actually go on and pull a statement of your charges. Same place, you would go to your student center in your Orion, and you would be able to go to your Bursar tile and then look for your account statement. So anytime you need that, I know a lot of times students like to email us and say, how much is it going to cost for this many hours? It's hard for us to do that for students, not because it takes a lot of time for us. It's just, we don't know every detail of what you're going to be doing. And in the system, it already has what program you're in. so it can estimate if there's additional fees for that program. It knows whether, your residency status, so it'll automatically calculate the right residency status. It knows if you need to be charged student insurance. So it's going to be able to come up with that for you. And then if you email us and ask us for that, we're probably going to tell you and explain to you how to go do this. But if you have questions on how to do this, we're more than happy to explain it to you through email. But if you email us, we're probably not going to give you an estimate through email. We're going to have you go create your own estimate. So you can go ahead and move on. So now that we're out of the tuition section, I know it was a lot of information on how we charge tuition, but we want you to know we don't want to hide anything from our students. We want students to be fully aware of how our tuition works, how you can check out how much it's going to cost, how you can compare our rates, so that you can be informed. So one thing that is kind of new to the university, it started last semester in the spring. UT Dallas has negotiated with a company called GradGuard to offer our students tuition insurance. So this is not insurance, a health insurance. This is an insurance on your actual tuition. And we've negotiated these rates. You can buy tuition insurance outside of the university, but we've negotiated lower rates for our students that you're not going to find if you just go out and search for tuition insurance yourself. Basically, what tuition insurance is, if there's something that's unexpected, let's say you get here and you're in your classes and something happens and you have a family emergency or you become ill or something happens unexpected, the university, the state of Texas, so you would be attending a state of Texas school, they have specific refund policies. And if you drop or withdraw after a certain point, you could actually owe the school all of the tuition, even if it's for an emergency, because they have set refund policies. And so if you have tuition insurance, this tuition insurance could pay you up to 100% of everything you paid to the university for your classes, your housing, whatever's covered within the insurance. So we found that, there are a lot of times that students have family emergencies or they've become ill, something happens and they have to leave, a few weeks or a month or so into the semester. And then here they are stuck with, these tuition charges because of the way the state of Texas does their refund policy, because you have attended classes. So they expect, okay, well, you're going to need to pay for some of those classes. You've lived on campus, you've ate meals. And so this is just a protection for you if something happens. This is completely optional. I'm just telling you about this so that you're aware of it. It's 100% optional. No student has to purchase student insurance. It is an additional fee. Those rates and information about that, you can go to our website, and then there's a link that will take you to GradGuard where you can actually, try to determine how much it's going to cost. It's not that expensive in regards to how much the tuition is. So it may be something that you may want to consider, but again, this is 100% optional. You are not required to purchase tuition insurance. And the deadline to do that every semester is going to be the day before classes start. So once the classes start, you no longer have that option to purchase that tuition insurance. So for the fall, the deadline is August the 22nd. And please email us if you have any questions about tuition insurance, or you can go on our website and check that. Again, 100% optional. You can go ahead and go on. So now let's talk about your scholarship. So I know some of you are wondering, how's my scholarship going to apply to my account? You may have been offered a scholarship from the department. I'll go ahead and say this again. Our office does not award scholarships. We do not award loans. You have to work with financial aid on the loans. For those of you who came in late, financial aid awards any kind of private loan. You have to work with them on that. And then scholarships are usually awarded through whatever department you're in. So whatever school, whatever program you're in, those scholarships usually come from those departments. It does go through the financial aid office, but usually financial aid is not the one awarding it to you. They're just dispersing it to your account. So you may hear the word award and you may hear the word disbursement. Award just means it's an offer. We've offered it to you. We're wanting to give you this money. Dispersing means you've actually accepted the offer that we've given you, and we're putting it on the financial aid office is putting it on your student account to pay towards your bill. So that's the difference between awarding and dispersing. So again, dispersing is going to be putting the money onto the student bill. All university scholarships will be applied directly to the student account. It won't go to you. You won't have to worry about paying that back toward us. A scholarship of $1,000 or more will qualify you for resident tuition rate for the entire academic year. So if you get a $1,000 scholarship, so if your department's offered you a scholarship of at least $1,000 for the year, your tuition rate, you would be charged the non-resident rate, but you would actually have a waiver for that. So we post a separate credit for the difference between the resident and the non-resident rate. So if you see your tuition line, you're going to see, the non-resident rate. And then as you go down the charges, you're going to see something that says a waiver, and it's going to be waiving the difference between that non-resident and the resident rate. All scholarship recipients should have the extended deadline. So I will talk about deadlines. It just gives financial aid a little bit more time to get your scholarship on. So that's why we extend your deadline. Please follow the financial aid recipient deadline on the payment and refund calendar, and we'll show you that here in a second. Scholarship recipients are expected to check their EasyPay account to verify that the scholarship has posted to the account prior to the payment deadline. So I know sometimes students, all types of students, will say, oh, I thought financial aid was supposed to pay, or I thought my scholarship was supposed to pay. And they just assume that everything gets done and they don't keep up with it. And so we want to make sure you're keeping up with it, because if you think you're supposed to be getting funds, we don't always know that. So even though we work closely with financial aid, we are two separate offices. So if your scholarship has gotten to financial aid, but for some reason it's not in your account, we may not know why. We may not even know that financial aid has the scholarship. So it's very important for you to check that on your own to make sure that everything you're expecting to be posted to your account has been posted to your account. Because if that $1,000 isn't posted to your account, the waiver also might not be posted to the account. So your charges still may be showing the non-resident charges. Payment is expected to be made after the scholarship or waiver has posted. So again, you want to make sure that's posted before our payment deadline, because we don't want you having to pay the full non-resident rate if you're getting a $1,000 scholarship and you're getting a waiver. So we want you to go ahead and wait, but there are deadlines. So you need to kind of keep up with it. If you do not see the scholarship posted a few days prior to the payment deadline, you definitely want to find out what's going on, because if it hasn't posted yet, there may not be time by the payment deadline to actually have that posted. And I know I do get a lot of questions about that. So if you have questions about that, you can, ask me that at the end. Also, you can email our office and we would be happy to explain that to you in detail on how that process works. So I mentioned our payment refund calendar. That's very important. It is on our website. Every semester, there's a new payment and refund calendar. Some of the things that you're going to find on that payment and refund calendar are the estimated dates for generating our statements. So remember how I said that, we usually do that about 6 to 8 weeks prior to the semester beginning. You'll find those dates on the payment and refund calendar. You'll find our payment deadlines. So you'll find our regular payment deadline and our extended financial payment deadline. So if you're getting that scholarship, you would follow that extended deadline. You'll find information about late fees. So if you're paying late, You'll find information about our payment plan options and due dates, and then you'll also find the refund schedule for dropping a course or completely withdrawing. I am going to go over that in a little bit more detail I believe it's the next slide. So I do want to go over that part with you. The fall 2022 payment deadline, the regular registration deadline, is August the 18th, and this is for students who are not receiving any type of financial aid. If you're not receiving any financial aid from the university, you would follow the regular registration payment deadline. That means you're not receiving a scholarship from the university. You're not receiving a loan that's coming through the university. If you're receiving a loan, it's not coming through the university. You know, that's going to be definitely the regular payment deadline. If it's not money that's coming through the university. If you are receiving some type of financial aid from the university, then that deadline is September 1st for the fall. And again, these dates are on our payment refund calendar. It's very important. I'm giving you those dates right now, but it's very important for you to go out and look at that each semester once those new calendars are out. And it's attached to the academic calendar. It's the second page of the academic calendar. So when you go and look at the academic calendar, just make sure you scroll down a little bit to the next page and you'll see the payment and refund calendar. And then please verify you've received the extension each semester that you're eligible to receive financial aid. Sometimes you should be receiving financial aid. Maybe you don't have that extension on your account. What's really nice is that when you go into your Bursar tile in your Orion student account, and I hope that if you're an admitted student, you've been able to log in and go into the Galaxy. We call it Galaxy Orion. I use that term synonymously as well. If you go to the Bursar tile, your deadline, your payment deadline, once you're registered for classes, that payment deadline will actually show up on your Bursar tile. So it's very helpful. So anytime you see that Bursar tile, it'll just say, you know, payment deadline August 18th or payment deadline September 1st. So it keeps that in your mind so that you don't always have to be thinking, oh, when is my deadline? It's right there on that tile. So you can go ahead and move on. So in the first slide, I said that we maintain the online services through EasyPay. So what is EasyPay? EasyPay, sorry. You can make payments online through EasyPay. You can use a credit card. You can use an electronic check if you have a U.S. bank account. You can view your billing statement. So anytime we email you and say you have a new billing statement, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be out on EasyPay. You can go and actually view your statement there. Again, you can view an account summary or an account statement in your Orion and Galaxy account as well, but you can also view it here in EasyPay. You can set up direct deposit. So if you were to get a U.S. bank account and maybe you're taking out a loan and maybe it's coming through an international wire and it's more than what your tuition is, we would be able to actually refund that to you to a U.S. bank account if you set up a direct deposit. You can add an authorized user. So if you have a family member, a parent, a grandparent, you know, a sponsor, somebody that you would want to be able to see your student bill, you could actually set them up as an authorized user. That way they're not having to log into your account and, you know, they're not supposed to log into your account. Sometimes, you know, students will give that information out and it's better to go ahead and set them up as an authorized user. So all they can see is your bill. They could make payments on your behalf in EasyPay. They couldn't go, if you give them your password, they could actually go out and look at your grades and get on your email. And, you know, there's a lot of different things they could do if you give them your login information. So you want to make sure that you set them up as an authorized user. All they need is an email address. So you would go into EasyPay, click on add authorized user, put their email address in, and then they would get an email telling them how to go set up themselves as an authorized user. So that's very important. Also, you can set up an installment plan in our EasyPay portal. So I'll talk about our payment plans. There are two different payment plans. One of them set up here in EasyPay, and the other one is not set up in EasyPay. It's set up in Orion. So the installment plan can actually be set up here. And again, you log in here using your net ID and password. And this is, you can kind of see like a little snippet of what it kind of looks like. So you can go ahead and move on. So some of the payment methods that we have in Easy Pay, again, you can use a credit card. There, it has to have a Visa. I'm sorry, not Visa. It has to have a MasterCard, American Express, or Discover logo on it. So any card, even if it's a travel card, as long as it has one of those logos on it, we can take that as a payment, as a credit card payment. We do not accept cards that have the Visa logo on it. We never have. No, we get a lot of questions about, well, why don't you take Visa? We just have not taken Visa for many, many years. Again, travel cards will be treated as a credit card as long as it has one of those logos. Again, electronic check. You have to have a U.S. bank account. We have access to the routing number and the bank account number, and there is no fee to use an electronic check. So if you do have funds, maybe in your bank account, in your home country, and you are deciding that you want to transfer that over into a U.S. bank account and make a check payment to us, you can do that. There is other options, but you can do that. Some students like to have an account once they get here, and they like to use that to make their payments. And there's no fee, again, to use an electronic check. And we can always assist you. I know sometimes the numbers on the bottom of the checks, a lot of people don't even get checks anymore, but to find that routing number and the account number, sometimes that can be confusing. People want to use their debit card number, and that's not the same. So if you ever have a question about what number to put in for an electronic check, please email us and we'll assist you in that. You can even call us and we can talk you through that over the phone. If you use a credit card, there is a fee. It's a 1.9% convenience fee that's charged. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that. It'll ask you before you finish your transaction. It'll let you know that there's the fee. No in-person transactions are being taken at this time. Our office is actually closed for in-person assistance, so we do not take cash. We have had students in the past that wanted to pay all of their tuition in cash and would carry all of that's not safe. And, but we don't take any in-person transactions at all right now. So any payments you make, they will need to be done through our Easy Pay system. If you're going to mail us a payment or you have a demand draft, please allow about 3 weeks for that to go through the mailing process. It does take, excuse me, a little bit of time for that to get to us. Even though you may send it, it has to go through a mailing center at our university, and then it has to be sent to us. So we want to make sure we get your payment before the deadline, because what can happen if you get if your payment's not made by the deadline, you could be dropped from your classes for non-payment. So it's really important that you meet those deadlines, because if you get dropped from your classes, sometimes it can be hard to get back into the same classes, because there are people on a waiting list waiting to get in those classes. So you want to make sure that anything you're doing, you're making sure that you meet those payment deadlines. And there was our mailing address. So if you are trying to send us an international wire, we do use a company. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead and go to the next slide. We have partnered with a company called Flywire. They've been doing our international wires for many years. If you call our office and you ask us for our banking information because you want to send us a wire, we're not going to provide that to you. You do need to go through Flywire. There's no fee associated with using Flywire. It's a very easy process. You would log into your Galaxy account, your portal. You can see the steps here. You'd go to your self-service and the Bursar, then under payment options, you would see the Flywire choice, and it's going to redirect you to their website. And you can see here it gives you the instructions, and we can always provide those instructions to you. They're also on our website. Again, there is no fee for going through Flywire. So any wire that you want to send us, I do know that sometimes the banks want to work directly with the university, especially if you're taking a loan out from your home country. They'll ask for like the university information. They want to make sure it's going to the university, but it does need to go through Flywire. And a lot of the banks now in other countries do know Flywire, so they're a little bit more familiar with them being a university servicer, because a lot of universities do use Flywire for their international payments. So if you've ever been to any university within the US, you may have already used Flywire before for your international wire. And again, please give it a few days. Sometimes it'll tell you that it's in the process. It does take time for us to get it. So you don't want to go on and initiate your payment the day before the deadline or the payment deadline, because we may not get it in time. So you want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to get that. We suggest about 7 days for that. That you start that process 7 days, because it is electronic, so it is a little bit faster than sending something through the mail, but you do want to start that process about 7 days before the payment deadline. And then in the event that you're not able to secure your funds, because we do know, again, it takes time for you to secure a loan or funding from a sponsor. Maybe they don't have the money by the payment deadline. You may want to consider taking out one of our payment plans, and that payment plan is called the short-term loan, and it doesn't require any payment up front, and it will extend your deadline. And I think I'm about to go into those details right now on the next slide. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, we can do that. Yes, so I mentioned the installment plan. It's set up in Easy Pay. The installment plan actually will include tuition, fees, housing, meal plan, anything that's on your student account. So student insurance, any class-related fees. I mentioned that that those are some of the fees that you may see on your account other than your tuition and fees. If you're living on campus, you may see housing. If you're getting a meal plan, that would show up. You would have, if you're in certain programs, they charge class-related fees, so you may see that on your bill. It's called supplemental tuition. And then also, as an international student, you're usually going to see some kind of student insurance charged, and that's for student health insurance. So those are some of the fees that you'll see. Well, the installment plan will include all of those fees. So it will take all of those fees and it will divide it into 4 payments, and it will let you make a 25% down payment by the payment deadline. So that first 25% is due at the time that you enroll in the installment plan, not the time that you enroll in classes. I know that can be confusing. After I read that, I thought, okay, that they probably may think that means enrolling in the university. It just means at the time of enrolling in the installment plan. And that has to be done by the payment deadline. So by the payment deadline, you're going to owe 25% of your fees. And then there's 3 other payments within the semester, and you can see those payment deadlines for the fall listed here. Then we have what's called the short-term loan. That is not a student loan, and it's not a private loan. It's not going to extend your deadline or have you pay it, years in the future. This is just a short-term payment plan that we allow you to take out, and it's only for your tuition and mandatory fees. So it would be the tuition and any of the class-related fees. It's not going to include student insurance, housing, or meal plan. You would still have to pay those by the regular deadline or by your payment deadline. Again, it's only going to include the tuition and mandatory fees. But what it does is it extends your payment deadline 60 days past our census day. And for the fall semester, that deadline's October 19th. So it's due in one lump sum. So how the installment plan is due in 4 payments, the short-term loan is just one payment about 60 days after our census day is when that would be due. You can make payments prior to that, but if you make payments after that, you may have late fees. So you want to make sure that you're able to, if you're waiting on a loan or you're waiting for a sponsor to pay, you want to make sure that you secured that funding before the short-term loan deadline. And again, this one's a good one if you are trying to still work on getting loans and things like that to pay, or funds to pay. If you have the funds and you want to pay up front, of course, you can always do that. Or if you have the funds and maybe you only have 25% to pay down, it's good to do the installment plan, because the installment plan costs $25 to set up. Where the short-term loan, because there is no down payment, it's a little bit more expensive. There's a 1.25 origination fee associated with that. So that can add up if you're looking at the total charges, your total tuition and fees, and you're doing 1.25% of that. It's definitely going to cost you more than $25. So again, if you have any questions about the payment deadline, the payment plans, you can always email us. I think we're moving on to the drop and complete withdrawal. So if for some reason, I know I mentioned this when we were talking about the tuition insurance, students don't want to think that they're going to have to leave the university or they're going to have to drop, because you're excited about coming to the university. You're excited about getting here and starting your classes and meeting new people and just getting to know the university. And you think, oh, well, I'm not even thinking about having to leave the university at this point. I'm just trying to get there right now. And that's why, we tell you about the tuition insurance, and you definitely want to look into that. But we also want you to be aware of our policies when you do have to drop or withdraw a course. There is a difference between dropping a course and completely withdrawing. If you are dropping a class, so you're registered for, let's say you're in 9 hours and you drop a class and you go down to 6 hours. As long as you do that by our census date, we're not going to charge you for that class that you dropped. It's kind of like, hey, I'm trying this class out. It didn't really work out for me for that class. And now, I need to drop this class because this just isn't working. We're going to give you your money back for that. We're going to give you credit for that. If you haven't paid for it, obviously, we're not going to send you a refund check or anything like that because it's not paid for. If it's on a payment plan, you're just going to get credit back for it. But if you are having issues and you just get here and you say this isn't working out, or something's going on back at home and I need to go home, or I just don't like UT Dallas, just whatever the reason is, I hope that would never be the case. But let's just say you are going to drop all of your classes from that semester. That's considered a complete withdrawal, and you have to withdraw from those classes prior to the first day of class starting. Even if your class starts on a Tuesday and Monday was the first day of class and you go online and you drop your classes Monday, Monday was the first official day of class. So you're going to be charged a percentage of your classes, all of your classes that you withdraw from, if you withdraw from all of them, as of the first day of class forward. So you want to make sure that if you have to withdraw, you withdraw before the first day of class. Now, obviously, like I said, there's going to be unexpected things where you're not even going to realize that you needed to withdraw or it just didn't work out. There will be a percentage that you would have to pay. Again, we offer the tuition insurance, and if it's a covered expense, you may be able to get that money back. If you don't have any kind of tuition insurance, there would be a percentage that you need to pay. And you can see here, as of the day before the first day of classes, you would actually get 100%. 80% up through the 26th. You can see here, it goes 100%, 80%, 70%, 50%, 25%. And then after the 20th class date, you get no credit back. And when we say a refund back, we're going to give you credit back for your classes. That's what we mean. We're going to give you a certain percentage of credit back. If you've paid those classes in full, yes, 100%, you're going to get whatever percentage of refund sent back to you or given back to you in a check or a direct deposit. But if you haven't paid for those classes, maybe it's in a short-term loan or you're on the installment plan, we're going to give you credit back for a certain portion of the classes that you withdrew from. So you want to make sure. There are times that students will withdraw and they think that they're on a payment plan and they think that they're going to get enough back to have something refunded to them, and they don't. In fact, they actually still owe us funding. And it's just a matter of understanding. We want to make sure that everybody's aware of all of our policies, procedures, because we don't want you to be surprised about anything. Like I said, we want to make sure that you understand everything in regards to tuition and fees. And that's why I try to go over it very thoroughly with you, so that you can know how you're going to be charged, what's going to happen if you have to leave the university, what's going to happen if you don't want to be in those classes. And, how do I set up a payment plan? How do I, what types of options do you have if I'm not able to pay up front? What happens with my scholarship? And I know I've taken up the whole hour with all of this, but the more information I can give you now, maybe the less questions you'll have later. But again, your questions are always welcome. But I want to make sure that we're being thorough. And I'm going to go over one more slide that has to do with our procedures. I know we're right at 10 o'clock, or here 10 o'clock, our 1 hour, our 60 minutes. But I want to go over this really quickly because I mentioned you getting, possibly setting up a direct deposit with a U.S. bank account. I've mentioned us possibly refunding you funds if you have to drop a class or you end up withdrawing and you get a percentage of your funds back. If an account has been paid in excess of the amount owed, then a student will show what's called a credit balance. So again, if you have a wire, something come through Flywire, and it's more than what you actually owe, that would show as a credit balance. And you can see an example here of it's going to show as like a negative number. That doesn't mean you owe us anything. That means we owe you something. So if you ever see a negative balance on your account, you should see that within 2 to 4 business days, that should zero back out. And then students with a U.S. bank account can set up a direct deposit, and we can have that to you within 1 to 3 business days. And if you're getting a check because you don't have a direct deposit, that could actually take up to 3 weeks, and we're only going to mail it to a U.S. address. So if you're living on campus or you get an apartment, you want to make sure you update that address in our system so that if we do owe you something or we have to mail you anything, that we have a local address, because we will not send it to an international address. Students that make a payment through Flywire, so if you're sending an international wire, we can actually refund that to you back through Flywire, but you would need to contact us and let us know that you want your refund sent back through Flywire. The next 2 slides are just frequently asked questions, so maybe I can clear up some information that maybe some things that I've talked about that maybe you need clarification on. So some of the frequently asked questions is, how do I know which tuition plan to choose? And I think I kind of touched on that, but again, think about how long you plan to attend the university. If it makes sense that you're going to be here for a little while, you may save money going with a guaranteed plan, because that locks your rate in and you'll know exactly how much you're going to pay for the next 4 years. And then if you're going to be here longer than 4 years, then you would go to the next active plan and not all the way up to the 28, 29 plan where you've had all these rate increases. Again, if you're not going to be here for that long, the variable plan, 2-3 years, you probably want to go with the variable plan, because it does start out lower. It increases about 3 to 6% every year. And if you look at the plans, do the comparison, you'll see the difference right now in the guaranteed rate and the variable rate for the same number of hours. So make sure you're looking at the same number of hours. If you're going to be full-time, look at the full-time rate. If you're going to be, 3/4 time or a graduate full-time student, 9 hours. If you're going to do 9 hours, make sure you're comparing those, to each other in the same levels. Can you tell me how much I will owe before I'm registered? We cannot tell you how much you're going to owe before you're registered. Again, I know I said that. I'm going to say it again. Make sure you go on and do a tuition estimate, because our office cannot tell you how much you're going to owe. Can you provide me with a fee statement? We can provide you with a fee statement through your Galaxy account once the charges are posted to your account. Otherwise, you would be able to print your own tuition estimate. Can I pay in cash? No, you can't pay in cash. I know, again, I've answered a lot of these. My demand draft or wire is more than my tuition charges. Will I be refunded? Yes, you will be refunded. If you have a credit balance, you will be refunded. It's just a matter of how you're going to be refunded. We may actually, if you only have an international address, we will actually hold the check in our office if you don't have a direct deposit. So you may see holds on your account that say that you need to set up a direct deposit, or we need a U.S. address. I didn't go over a lot about holds. They're called service indicators. We call them service indicators. Students also call them holds because it prevents them from doing something like registering or getting a check. Not all holds are bad. There are some good holds. A good hold would be your extended payment deadline for financial aid. So if you're receiving a scholarship, you would get an extension, and that would show up as a hold. But it's not a bad hold. It's actually a good hold because we're extending your payment deadline. And we can always answer questions about any kind of hold or service indicator that you see on your account. Do I pay for my classes before my scholarship's posted? We prefer that you do not do that because we do not want to have to refund you if we don't have to. So it's better to go ahead and wait for that to be posted. For those of you that came in late, if your scholarship is not posted within about 3 days of the deadline, you want to definitely find out what's going on. The 3 days of the payment deadline, you definitely want to find out what's going on with that. You may have to pay. You may not have a choice, or you could take out some kind of a payment plan. When is my tuition deadline? Again, it's going to be right there on that Bursar tile in your Orion Student Center. You'll see it's a little square and it says Bursar, and it'll have your deadline. So once you're registered, that deadline will show up. And so if you think you're supposed to have the financial aid deadline, but it has the regular deadline for you, so you think September 1st for fall is supposed to be your deadline, and it says August 18th, then you need to check on why it's showing the wrong date. Why do I have a hold? I did just go over some of the reasons you may have a hold. You may have a hold because maybe at the end of the semester you still had a balance with our office, and we may be preventing you from registering for classes because maybe you took out a short-term loan and you weren't able to secure funds to pay that. We're going to put a hold on your account for that. You may have, like I said, a good hold for the financial aid extension. There's just various holds. How do I get my student insurance waived? Student insurance is going to be the student health insurance. That is done through the Student Health Center at this time. It may transfer to our office soon, but as of right now, the Student Health office, the Student Health Center is the one you would, so let's say you have your own personal insurance and you don't need the university's insurance, you could provide that documentation to their office, and then they would let us know that you need to have your student health insurance waived. And then, can I drop a class after classes have started? I know I went over that pretty thoroughly, but yes, you can. It's just you may owe depending on when you drop. Again, I will reiterate this part. You can drop a class as long as you remain enrolled in other classes for that semester. You can drop a class and get 100% back all the way through our census day. But if you drop that same class after census day, you're going to be paying 100% for that class. So there is no percentage on dropped classes, just dropped classes after census day. So it's either 100% before census day you get credit back, or you pay 100% after the census day. So that a lot of students do question that because they see the percentages for the withdrawing and they assume they're going to get a percentage back if they drop at a certain point, and they're just dropping a class, or maybe they're dropping 2 classes and they're remaining in other classes. It's just kind of like all or nothing for that one. Okay. And then the last slide that I have is recommended action items. You definitely want to choose your tuition plan. I talked about that way long time ago in the presentation, but you definitely want to choose your tuition plan. Again, you're going to receive an email about how to go compare the rates and how to select your tuition plan. You want to update your address as soon as you get here. As soon as you know what your address is, you're going to want to update that in our system. You're going to want to become familiar with the academic calendar and the payment and refund calendar. It's very important that you go look at those dates so you kind of know what's going on, when classes start, when is census, because I've mentioned census several times in this presentation. You want to know, when is that date? You want to establish a U.S. bank account if you can. One thing I know I've heard other people say within the international office is that talk to other people, talk to other international students, find out like what they did. They may be able to help you, find a good bank to use. Maybe, just get their experiences because they've been through some of the same things that you've been through. So we always suggest you use those kind of resources to kind of find out what they've done in the past. Set up your refund profile in EasyPay once you get that U.S. bank account. Check your EasyPay account to ensure your scholarships are posted. So once you get that email after you register that says you have a billing statement, check that often. Look in EasyPay, see what's posted to your account, see if your scholarship's posted if you're expecting that. See if your private loan's posted. Even check to see if a payment you made is posted, because if you went and made a payment and you mailed it, you want to make sure that payment gets posted. Don't just assume that things are posted. And then check your UT Dallas email, because we're always going to email you through your UT Dallas email. We're not going to email you through your personal email unless you've set that up as maybe a preference or something to be copied on. Authorized users on EasyPay also will get an email about the billing statement. So if you have an authorized user, they'll get their own email about your billing statement. And then allow 7 days for flower payments to come to UT Dallas once they're initiated. And I'm sure y'all are so happy. I only went over by 10 minutes, and hopefully I got a lot of the questions that you had answered while we were going through, because I'm sure you had a lot of things thinking, oh, well, what about this or what about that? And then as I'm going through, you're hearing your answers to your questions. But I'm definitely willing to take questions and stay as long as you need me to do that. Because again, I just wanted to make sure, Rodolfo, that I'm thorough, and I want to make sure that students understand, everything that our office does and what we can assist them with and what we can assist them with. Again, we don't award financial aid. We don't determine your residency status. And I'm sure that y'all can put the residency email address in the chat so that they can see that. I don't know if you've already done that, possibly. Even maybe the financial aid office in case they're inquiring about a private loan. Because again, I do get a lot of those questions at the end, and I end up saying, that you have to talk to financial aid about that, or you need to talk to the registrar's office, residency, and things like that. So, but definitely I'm open and willing, and if anybody has any questions, I can go ahead and take those.
Lisa, thank you very much. This has been very helpful for everybody and has been very, very comprehensive. You're really doing a great job by sharing all this information, and not only about Bursar's office, but beyond. Relevant information and recommendations for other dimensions and aspects of the whole process to become a UT Dallas Comet, a UT Dallas member for this new community in the fall 2022. And for everybody out there, the chat for questions and answers is open, so you're welcome to present your questions, your comments, your doubts in advance. We're sharing the academic calendar fall 2022 where you will find many of the specific deadlines that Lisa has mentioned. Specifically, the Census Day is a key date for the UT Dallas administration and for you to ensure that any process or any like dropping classes or withdrawing classes, you will be able to do it with no financial implications before census date, and certainly with no academic implications before the census date. In addition, we're providing the contact information of the office of Lisa, Bursar's contact information, and the specific links that has been mentioned, including in the PowerPoint presentation. And for you, all of you to know that this presentation, this information session will be published in collaboration and with the permission of the Bursar's office, with permission of Lisa Davis, in the YouTube channel of Intercultural Programs. So this will be published sometime this afternoon, Central Time, United States, and you will be able to have access to this information again, just in case you need to review any specific slide or any specific explanation from Lisa regarding the different aspects of paying tuition and fees at UT Dallas. I believe we have many questions, Lisa. Somebody's asking, he's a PhD student, doctoral student, and they're receiving a research assistantship. And they're asking if they need to do anything related to selection, the tuition plan, or it's going to be automatic by the fact that it's going to be a research assistant at UT Dallas?
So we request that all students go ahead and review the tuition and fees and also choose a plan. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Again, you're going to be defaulted into the variable plan no matter what. So you will have a tuition plan even if you choose not to select a plan. The only reason we want to make sure that you're aware of which plan you're going to be on and you have that choice is because what if, for some reason, the TA-ship, you don't get that one semester, or maybe you decide you don't want to do the TA-ship and you're going to have to pay on your own out of pocket. We want to make sure that you're aware of how much you're going to be paying for your tuition, because since it's ultimately your tuition bill, even though there's somebody else that's helping you or assisting you, or you're getting a waiver for all of it, we just want you to be aware of how much you're going to be charged. Because ultimately it does come down to the student, right? Even though you're receiving a scholarship or a TA-ship, still your responsibility to make sure that TA-ship is on there. You've done everything you need to continue to receive it. And we have had students that, something went wrong and they didn't realize that it wasn't on, and it just, they end up having to pay for whatever reason. So we just want to make sure that students are aware, because the tuition bill is ultimately the student's responsibility, no matter who's making the payment on their behalf.
And that's a very good point, Lisa, because I think part of the very basic message that you're conveying to the students is the importance of proaction, individual proaction, and to be able to take care of their own responsibilities. And that implies to have a healthy financial account at UT Dallas. And for those one receiving scholarships, depending who is managing the scholarship, you will recommend you to contact them directly. Let's say that you're having a TA or RA position that have some privileges, and certainly you may have a conversation with a specific academic unit sponsoring that specific TA RA position. Keep in mind, UT Dallas has it has some degrees of decentralization in terms of the administration, and every single school on campus may have specifics about the way they're managing scholarships and specifically TAs RA position that may be reflected in your individual account. So communication is essential to have those conversations with your academic units as well, with administrators of those academic units, and to ensure that you individually check your Orion account based on your conversations with those champions, with those administrators, and based on these expectations to really ensure that you have a healthy financial account in Orion here at UT Dallas. Lisa, they were asking about in terms of the when they're receiving scholarships in general, what will be the expectation in terms of when the scholarship will be reflected in Orion, and if you have any other recommendation in terms of if specifically in Orion, where they can find information related to the posting scholarships.
Okay, so the scholarships, they try to begin posting the scholarships around the first day of class. That is why the regular payment deadline is on August 18th, which is before classes start. That's why they give an extension for financial aid recipients, because they know that scholarships and sometimes private loans and different things don't start being dispersed to the account until around the first day of class. So I would expect it around the first day of class. Now you have to remember that the scholarships come from the department or your school that you're attending, the program you're from, and then they go to the financial aid office. It goes over to the financial aid office, they're notified, and then the financial aid office will put that money on to the Bursar account. So there's kind of like a 3-step process here. And sometimes it can take a little while for the information on the scholarship to get to the financial aid office. And then for the financial aid office to actually get that on your account. So usually the disconnect is, when is the department letting the financial aid office know that that you're getting a scholarship? That's the important part. So that you can see that scholarship in your Orion account under financial aid. So there's a financial aid tab, just like there's a Bursar tile, or there's also a financial aid one. So you should be able to click into that tile and see what you're awarded. And remember, I said awarded is just what you've been offered. And you can see if that award is offered to you. Have you accepted it? Does it show that it's accepted? Is there anything you need to do? That's all going to be under the financial aid tile in your Orion account. So that's where you're going to see, before it ever gets to your student bill, before you ever go look to see if it's posted to your student bill, you want to look to see if it's on your financial aid tile under your awards. And if it's not, that usually means that the financial aid office has not been notified from your department that's giving you the scholarship. They haven't been notified to put that on your award yet. And that could also mean that maybe you don't have the extension because financial aid doesn't know to give you the extension. So that is an important process. You want to make sure that if you're expecting a scholarship, that you see that extension on your account, on your Bursar tile. When you see your deadline, you want to make sure that you have that financial aid deadline. If you're receiving any kind of funding from the university, you want to make sure you have that extended deadline. If you don't, that's why you need to check with financial aid and find out why. And it could be that they have not been notified from the department, and then they may send you to the department. And we don't like to have to do that. We don't like to have to send you from this department to that department and our department. And that's why whenever you contact us, sometimes we'll try to do as much as we can to give you the information that we have. And sometimes we'll even ask the other departments on your behalf. But when it comes to the part between the financial aid office and the department, there's really nowhere for us, to give you any information. Like, you would have to go to financial aid or to that department to kind of get them to work together. But when it's just us and financial aid, we work closely together. So we do our best to try to find out information. If you were to email our office, if we can get the information from financial aid, then we'll do our best to do that for you. Because like I said, we don't like for you to have to go from here to there and sending you all over the place. We'll do our best to help you. But sometimes that department, it might take them a little while because maybe they have a lot of students that they're having to put scholarship information together to get that over to the financial aid office. So definitely check those tiles, and I call them tiles. They're little squares that are on when you log in, and hopefully you've been in there and you can see the financial aid. There's one for financial aid, and if you click on that, there's an option to view the award and what you've been offered. And if that scholarship's not there, it usually means that the department has not notified. So the short answer is around the first day of class, but the rest of it was the long answer. So
Thank you, Lisa. Somebody's asking about the number of credit hours that they will have to register.
okay.
We can provide that answer. For undergraduate students, as an international student, you need to register at least 12 credit hours to be considered full-time student. And for graduate students, they need to register at least 9 credit hours to be considered as full-time student. And this is a requirement from federal authorities regarding to maintain a good immigration status. Lisa, somebody's asking about the fact that they already registered X number of credit hours, but they don't show up yet in the individual Bursar account. Usually, how much time takes from the moment of registration to the point that appears the balance in the Orion account?
Okay, so once you register for your classes, I want to add on to something Rodolfo said, though,
Yes.
about the number of credit hours that are required. Sometimes students don't know how many credit hours each class is. And so most of the classes at UT Dallas are going to be about 3 credit hours. Sometimes there's 4 if they have a lab. If it's an internship, it may only be 1. But when we're talking about credit hours, like nine credit hours. We're talking about around 3 classes. Would you say that's correct? And then,
3 credit hours is basically one class,
yes,
45 contact hours.
yes. And I think sometimes we've had questions about that in other orientations where they've said, well, about how many credit hours is one class? So about 3 credit hours most of the time is what you're going to find for a class. So we're talking about 3 classes for 9, and then of course 4 for 12. But yes, so we do not process the bills for each term until about 6 to 8 weeks before that term starts. So if you've registered for classes, we currently have not processed the bills for the fall semester yet. I do believe sometime between the 6th and the 8th, so sometime next week, we will start processing those bills. Just to kind of, like I mentioned before, since the registration opens early for the spring, during the mid-fall semester, you won't see those classes. You may be registered in them, but you won't see that new bill until it gets closer to that next semester opening. So there is a time frame where we do it, and it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks before. So you may go on and register, early and not see a bill, but you can still see, maybe the fall bill, and maybe register for the spring and you won't see the spring bill yet. So to answer that question, it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks before the semester starts. That doesn't mean you're not registered, because you should be able to go into the registration and see your registration. You're just not going to see a bill for it yet.
Thank you, Lisa. There's a very interesting question here, I find. Somebody is having some technicalities with a visa process, expecting to arrive late to UT Dallas. Do they, under those considerations, do they have extensions for the payment of tuition and fees?
Not normally. And the reason I'm saying that is because if you register for classes before the payment deadline, it's going to really depend on when you register for those classes. If you wait to register for those classes after our payment deadline, then you would go to the next, how we have 2 payment deadlines. So we have the August 18th payment deadline, and then we have the September 1st payment deadline. If you register after August 18th, you're automatically going to go to the September 1st deadline, because that other deadline's already passed. If you register after September 1st, you're probably going to have to get approval to do that. So it's really going to depend on when you register. If you're registered before our regular payment deadline, usually about a week before that, then you're going to go by that payment deadline, that regular payment deadline. If you're registered before the Census Day payment deadline, you need to either set up a short-term loan, you need to get on some type of a payment plan before that.
Thank you, Lisa. This is really helpful, because I think this is a great opportunity to have the distinction between immigration processes and anything else related to UT Dallas administration. And they may fit each other in terms of educating each other in terms of different aspects of the immigration process for international students, but certainly we're subject to a regular semester based in specific deadlines. So you have options to have a late registration because you are delayed because of the visa. Please proceed and really be strategic about that. And by having full information, access to full information for informed decisions, and if needed, please send us any emails with your questions, doubts, and we'll be able to assist you to provide you tools for those cases. It's something that you have explained already, Lisa, but somebody is asking, what is an early payment deadline?
So the early payment deadline is on the academic calendar. I know that you've probably seen that on the payment and refund calendar. And so that is basically a deadline for students that once you're already at the university and maybe you're able to register right when registration opens, you're going to have that That's usually, we consider that your deadline, the early registration deadline. For all of you that are coming in right now, we're not going to make you follow that deadline. You may start like maybe after you register for the spring, you may receive some kind of information that tells you, the early payment deadline's coming up, something like that. But as of right now, we have not been using that for our new incoming students.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Regarding the installment plan, there is a charge of $25. The question is if the installment fee it applies for each one of the installment payments, or is only once for the whole semester.
Can you repeat the last part of that?
Yeah, there is a fee according to this question. They are saying that there is a $25 charge.
Yes, that's a one-time fee.
That's a one-time fee.
That's a one-time $25 setup fee. Yes. Now you do pay 25% total for each payment because we take it and we divide it into 4 payments. So, but there's only a one-time setup fee. We're not charging you $25 per payment, an extra $25. It's just a one-time $25 setup fee, and that's done on the very first payment. And then after that, yes. So a good example of the payment plan, I know sometimes students can be confused about our installment plan. Basically what it's going to do is going to take all of your tuition and fees, everything that's on your bill, it's going to divide it into 4. And then let's say you have made a payment or you have some kind of financial aid that's already been applied to your bill. It's going to count that financial aid toward the very first payment. So there's a good chance that if you have some money toward that's already been paid, maybe you had already made a payment yourself, or your scholarship has already come through, or maybe you had a waiver of the out-of-state portion and you only owe the in-state, the resident portion. There's a good chance that maybe you may not have to make that big of a payment because any payment you've already made is going to go toward the very, very first payment. So that very first down payment, 25%. So, if your tuition and fees is, I'm just going to give you something very simple. I'm going to say everything's $10,000. They divide that by 4. It's $2,500 a payment. But you already have $1,000 that's already been applied to your account because maybe you had a $1,000 scholarship. You're only going to have to pay $1,500 for that first payment because it's going to count all of that $1,000 toward the very first payment. So it would be 10,000 divided by 4, 2,500. 1,000's already been paid. So then 1,500 would be due on the first payment, and then $2,500 on the rest of them. Does that make sense? Sometimes students do get confused when they go set up the installment plan because it takes all of the tuition and fees and divides it, and they think, oh wait, it's not taking into account any payments I've already made. It's not taking into account my scholarship. It's not taking anything into account. And so, but it really does, but it does it on the payment, which is actually a benefit to the student because let's say you had already paid the $1,000 of your $10,000 and it's $9,000 and they divide that by 4, you're going to have to make a larger payment up front. So it's kind of better for the student, especially if they don't have the money up front. Maybe they're still trying to work on securing funding. So that was a very good question because I did want to explain that installment plan a little bit more. But yes, it's one time $25 setup fee.
Thank you, Lisa. And the next question is if they have installment plan in the first semester, can they have installment plan in the second semester, in the following semesters?
Yes, you can use an installment plan every single semester that you attend the university, as long as your previous term installment plan is paid. So if you set up the installment plan and you make all 4 of your payments, even if you accidentally maybe you make one late and it wasn't really on time, as long as it's paid by the next time you get ready to set up your next term installment, we're going to let you do the installment again. You just can't have 2 outstanding payment plans. So if you take out the short-term loan for your first semester and you weren't able to secure the funding for that, and then the next term comes and you're trying to register and you get registered for classes, but you still have a balance, we're not going to let you set up another payment plan for that next term until your payment plan for the previous term is paid. But yes, you're eligible as long as your prior term payment plans are paid. You're always going to be eligible for a new payment plan every semester.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, somebody's asking, and something that you explained, but they would like to hear more clarification in this respect, is about payments through Flywire. If the amount is in excess, the question, they will get the refund through Flywire or it will be through a check?
It's going to automatically be a check if they do not have a direct deposit set up through a U.S. bank account. We can do it through Flywire, but you have to let us know you want it through Flywire.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. Now, if somebody is requesting a loan from X bank, and this is a very general question because it doesn't really have a distinction between a U.S. bank or an international bank, foreign bank. But if they get a loan in general from a bank, how your office may work with that bank that is going to provide the loan for the student?
If it is if it's a U.S. lender, not an international lender, they would work with the financial aid office. So they would go through the lender that they're choosing. So whatever lender they've chosen, that's a U.S. lender, they're going to go through that lender, and that lender is going to send a certification request to the financial aid office. And basically, a certification request is asking, is this student enrolled at your university, and how many hours are they enrolled in? And then as long as they're enrolled for that semester that they're requesting the loan for, then the financial aid office will send that information back to the lender, and then the award will actually be on their financial aid award at the university, and the lender will send the funds to the university, and then it will be dispersed from the financial aid office onto their Bursar account. But that's only with U.S. lenders. If they're using an international lender, then they would have to work that out where it goes to their own bank account, and then they could use Flywire to send that to us. We're not going to work directly with an international lender.
Mm-hmm. Some students are asking about the specific information reflected in the slides. I would like to remind everybody that this information session, including the presentation, the PowerPoint, will be published in the YouTube channel of Intercultural Programs. So just agree with us, and will be published in a few hours from the moment that we'll be finishing this information session. Lisa, they're asking if they're using the tuition estimator, okay, on Orion. How accurate could be the calculation of the tuition estimator?
The tuition estimator is going to be, if you're using the one in Orion, not the one on our website. So there is one on our website for incoming students who have not been accepted to the university. You can kind of do an estimate online. If you are using the one through our your Orion student portal, that one is going to be the most accurate because it already knows what program you're in. It knows your residency status. It's going to be fairly accurate. The only places that I've seen that it's sometimes a little bit off. It'll even include your student insurance, because if it knows if you're an international student and you're going to need student health insurance, it's going to go ahead and include all that. Like I said, the only place that I've seen it off just a little bit is sometimes it will calculate the class-related fees if you're in a program that has class-related fees, even if you're not taking a class within that program. So maybe you're just taking like a basic course that's not in, maybe let's say you're in School of Management. School of Management, if you've noticed, they have their own fees related to their class. They have a per credit hour rate that's in addition to the regular tuition. So if you're an undergraduate, or let's just say you're a graduate student, I believe it's $100 a credit hour for that. They're going to assume that all of the classes, the tuition estimator usually assumes that all of the classes you're going to take are going to be within the School of Management. So it may try to give you an estimate for 9 hours and include all 9 hours of those in the $100 with the $100 extra. Does that make sense? So it may be over a little bit. You're more likely going to be just a tad bit over than a tad bit than under, as long as you put the right number of hours that you plan on taking, because there will be information you have to put in. It will ask you, How many hours are you in? Are you going to be living on campus? Are you going to have a meal plan? It's going to ask you some of those questions. And if you put it incorrectly, then you should get a fairly accurate estimate.
Thank you, Lisa. Somebody is enrolling 10 credit hours, okay? But one of them belongs to an 8-week class. Is there any distinction in terms of the specific tuition between 9 credit hours for a regular semester versus 1 credit hour for a short semester? That would be different level of tuition?
I think I'm understanding the question correctly. If you are in an 8-week session course, your charges are always going to be in the fall. If you're taking an 8-week course and you are in any full session term, you're always going to go by the charges within the fall, spring, 11-week summer session course line. And the reason is because we're not doing a per credit hour rate. Our tuition is, the first credit hour is always the most expensive. If you look at our chart, you're going to see 1 credit hour and it's going to be the most expensive credit hour. And as you go up, it gets more expensive, but each credit hour is actually cheaper the more credit hours you take. In fact, I don't know if you want to go back to this slide or not, but if you look at the actual tuition plan that I have as the example, you notice that our tuition plan goes up to 15 credit hours. But you also may notice that our rate from 12 to 15 is the same rate. You're not paying. There may be a time that it may be different, and there has been times in the past where it was just a little bit more as you go up from 12 to 15. But anything after 15, if you're able to take more than 15 credit hours, there's definitely not going to be any charge. But you notice here from 12 to 15, it's the same rate. So there is no per credit hour rate because you can see that 12 hours, there's no increase from 12 to 13. There's no increase from 13 to 15. So if you look, the first credit hour, you can see up here, I mean, I'm just going to look at the non-resident graduate rate. For 1 credit hour, it's $24.37 on this plan. But if you go down all the way to 15 and you times 15 times $24.37, that's like over $30,000. You can see that it's not a per credit hour rate. Each credit hour becomes cheaper. It's kind of like a graduated rate, basically. It's like each credit hour becomes cheaper the more credit hours you take. So you can see that if you go from 1 credit hour to 2 credit hours, it's only about what, maybe a $1,500 difference there. And then from 2 to 3, it's not even, I don't even know the difference there. It's like maybe around 1,500, 1,400. But the higher you go up, the less difference between each rate. So I know it can be confusing. That's why I always try to explain that, we're not a per credit hour university. We use a graduated tuition rate plan. And so the 8 hours, if you were just going to take an 8-week summer only session, and you can see these are summer only, that's the only time it changes. So, I mean, you can see it's almost the same price.
Lisa, thank you for this important clarification. And I really thank you, the student that posed this question, that I think that resolves some confusion, and to really understand better the way tuition could be quantified in terms of the specific amounts that would be expected to be paid by the students.
So sometimes it's important for the student, maybe they were thinking about taking 6, but they really have another class they could take. It might be better for them to go ahead and take the 9 because they may be paying less money for that that class than they would if they were just going to take it one session by itself. Maybe they were going to go in the summer and they said, oh, I'm just going to take a 3-hour class in the summer. Well, you can see how much that 3-hour class in the summer is. But if you go ahead and take it along with another 6 hours, you're going to be paying less for that class. So that's something good to keep in mind. How many hours am I going to take each semester? How many should I take? How am I going to save the most money? Is it better for me to take 9? Is it better for me to take 12 if I can? Because the more credit hours you're able to take in a semester, you're actually going to save in the long run because you're going to be here less semesters.
Again, Lisa is conveying a very important message for all of us to be strategic and to ensure that we have healthy financial accounts at UT Dallas. Lisa, I believe you answered already this question, but just in case, can tuition payment be done by SWIFT transfer, SWIFT?
That is, if it's coming through any type of wire, if it's being wired, it's going to have to go through Flywire. We take demand drafts, but that's usually, a draft. It usually looks like a check. And so that would be, you would need to mail that to us or drop it in the Dropbox when you come. But if it's any type of wire payment, and I believe SWIFT may be a wire payment, I believe. We only take wire payments through Flywire. So we're not going to work with any other company to have anything come to our direct bank account. So we would not be providing that information. So yes, it would have to go through Flywire. Now Flywire, I don't know what they take on their side because they're a separate, there are partners, but there are things that they take, and I don't really know exactly everything that they take. So you may want to go look on the Flywire website or log in to see what their options are because they take various different.
Thank you, Lisa. The following question, it may be very obvious for us, Lisa, and myself, but nevertheless is really important for new international students. Does the tuition insurance cover health medical insurance, or is something else, something different?
The tuition insurance. So the tuition insurance is basically insurance if you have to leave the university for whatever purpose and you still owe the university money or you've paid the university money and you want to be able to get refunded. That's what the tuition insurance is. And it's going to cover anything that if you leave for any of their covered reasons. So if it's a medical leave, it's a family, emergency, God forbid, a death in the family, you have an illness, some type of mental illness, something, a covered expense, they would cover you up to 100% of the charges that you have paid into the university or what you owe the university. If you haven't paid it, maybe it's just on some kind of a payment plan and you actually haven't paid it yet, they would cover that for you. That's what the tuition insurance is. So I don't know if they were asking about tuition insurance or if they're talking about student health insurance, the student health insurance.
Yes, the question basically was that if the tuition insurance will cover health medical insurance, and certainly you are providing the guidance.
Any covered, there is more information about that on our website, and then you can also check GradGuard and see what their covered expenses are. As long as it's an eligible reason that you left, they shouldn't have any problem covering the expenses that were incurred at the university, but definitely want to check with that just to make sure what all they cover. But yes, usually any kind of required charge at the university, and that's something that our university requires is the student health insurance for international students if they don't have any other health insurance.
Thank you, Lisa. Somebody is presenting the following situation. My financial aid summary shows about $16,000 as accepted. Does the student need to do something before paying the fees and tuition?
So they're talking about that they've been awarded financial aid for up to a certain amount?
$16,000.
Okay. So they want to make sure that they go in and accept any type of award, do any kind of promissory notes or anything that's required. The financial aid office actually has what's called checklist items, and there are items, it'll list things that they need to complete before their aid can actually disperse to their account. So they want to make sure that they do any of their checklist items. Make sure that they accept the funding if they want the funding. If it's something that they have to go in and accept, they want to make sure that they do that. If it's not something they have to accept, sometimes it already shows accepted because maybe it's something that's coming from a department and the student doesn't have to accept it. But they always want to make sure the first step is to go in and accept the offer if they want it, if they're required to accept it. They want to go check that. Second, you want to do any checklist item that the financial aid office has put out there. And then once that has applied to the account, because remember, like I said, financial aid doesn't start putting the awards or the money on the Bursar account until around the first day of class. So they want to make sure that they have that extended deadline once they start putting those out. And none of that's done right now. That's all gonna, once we do the bills, once we start doing the bills, like I said, that's around the 6th to the 8th of July. Probably by the 8th of July, we're going to start billing students. And so they want to look for the student wants to look for their payment deadline, make sure it's been extended because they have financial aid, make sure they've accepted their loan and done checklist items. That's basically what they need to do.
Lisa, thank you. Very helpful. Somebody's asking, basically, the family of the student is going to pay tuition and fees for the semester, and they will do it through Flywire from an Indian bank account. Mm-hmm. What will be the process for that transfer?
They'll follow all the steps through Flywire. So they can log into their student account, and then on their Bursar tile, there'll be an option for pay. It'll say payment options once they click in. And then under payment options, there's an option to pay by Flywire. And so once they click on Flywire, it will go ahead and send them over to the Flywire site. And then they'll follow all the steps. Whatever steps it tells them to follow, they would go through all of those steps. And to initiate the payment, they would put all their payment information in, however they're going to pay, and then that money Flywire would let us know that money has been initiated and that it's in the process. And then within a few days, like I said, it usually takes about 7 days from the time you initiate it to the time it's actually at the university. So you want to make sure that you don't want to do it before your bill's out, because then you might not know how much you owe, but you want to give it time. If you're really close to that payment deadline, you want to make sure you give it that 7 days before the payment deadline. But all of that, there's step-by-step instructions on the Flywire website. But first, you just have to go to your UT Dallas account and your Bursar tile, payment options, and then Flywire. That's all you do on our system, and the rest of it's done through Flywire system.
Thank you, Lisa. Regarding the variable tuition plan, how often the rates will change? Every year, every semester?
So the rates on the variable plan are set for one academic year. This year is an exception to that. And I don't know if anybody came on late or if, maybe they didn't hear it because this was at the beginning. But the tuition rate, if you notice here for this plan, you can see it says variable tuition plan fall 22. If you go back and look at last year's, it says academic year 21-22, which goes fall, spring, summer. The only reason that this is only for one term right now is because we're using the same rates as we used last year, because the new rates have not been made and there may not be any changes. But if you look on our website, there is a notice out there, and I believe that there may be something in the email you receive about selecting a tuition plan. I believe there's something in that email that tells you that the variable plan right now is only good for fall, and it may change in the spring for this current term, this current year. So this one could actually change this year. Usually it's fall, spring, summer, that's what it's good for. But because we're using last year's tuition rates, there is a chance that it could change next year. But we normally, even if there wasn't this specific issue this year, we still only normally guarantee it for 1 year. So that would be the most that it would ever stay the same. But it just so happens that we're using for the fall, we're using last year. So we actually extended it out another semester with the same rates. So
Thank
this
you.
could change in the spring and the summer. It could be once they pick the rate in the spring though, that would be good for spring and summer. And it may stay this rate. It may be this rate and they may go ahead and use this rate for spring and summer as well. It's just right now because they're using last year's rate, they do have the option to change it for the spring and the summer.
Thank you, Lisa. If you allow us, we'll present 3 more questions and then we'll finish the session. So this student is asking if he's bringing a Forex card to cover his or her expenses at UT Dallas. And the question is if UT Dallas will be accepting a non-visa based Forex card as a valid mode of payment. Essentially, he's explaining that Forex cards are debit cards.
Okay, so a debit card that has a logo of MasterCard, American Express, Discover, those will be accepted just like a credit card. So it still will charge that 1.9 convenience fee because even if it's a debit card, it's still considered credit because it has that logo on it, because we technically don't take debit cards, like you can't put a PIN number in like you would at some places. So you want to make sure that that card, when you're using it, it has the MasterCard, American Express, or Discover. If it's Visa, it will not be accepted. And it's only accepted on Easy Pay. We don't take any payments in person. So I know he said they'll be bringing that, but you can actually use it on our website on Easy Pay. So just make sure, as long as it's not Visa, it would be, even if it's a debit, it's still considered as a credit card when you put it in, when you process it, and it would have a fee. The only way that you could use it that's not as a credit card would be if you had a bank account that was a U.S. bank account behind the debit card, and that it would have the routing number and the checking. You could use the routing and the checking account number, but that's only a U.S. bank account. So if it's any other card from any other country, then you would have to use it as a credit card.
Thank you, Lisa. Somebody's asking if the international student services fee is due every semester, and the answer is yes. I don't have a specific amount for that fee. It's over $100, but it's charged every semester. Somebody's asking about the variable rate tuition, variable tuition plan. In your experience, Lisa, what is the percentage of increase of the rates?
If you go out to look at the comparison, we usually put because in the comparison, it's going to compare 4 years of the variable and 4 years of the guaranteed, so that you can see like what the cost savings would be if you chose the guaranteed or the variable. And the rate of increase that we use on the comparison is 4%. But I usually say anywhere from 3 to 6%, depending on the economy or whatever. It could be anywhere from 3 to 6%. I haven't seen it increase more than 6%. But on the comparison, we use a 4% increase every year. So basically, what you're going to see on that comparison, remember the guaranteed rate is 4 consecutive years. So on the guaranteed side, you're just going to see the same rate, all the way down. And then on the variable, you're going to see current rate, 4% increase, 4% increase, 4% increase. And so then it's going to do a comparison of the total, and it's going to say, okay, here's how much it would be if you're on the variable rate. Here's how much it would be if you're on the guaranteed rate. And so you need to look and see, okay, am I going to save money if I go to the guaranteed rate? Am I going to be better off on the variable rate? Because I'm only going to be here 2 years, this year and this year. So that's only this much on the guaranteed. It's this much on the variable. So that's why we suggest you go do a comparison, kind of to get an idea of what's and of how much it would be for. And we always put the comparison for full-time enrollment.
Final question, Lisa. Thank you.
Sure.
Many students are asking basically the same question.
Okay.
They don't see the exact tuition fees for the coming semester. Some of
Mhm.
them, they had received scholarships. So the general question is, how much time do they need to wait for them to see the accurate balance in their Orion accounts? And I believe you have explained this during the presentation, during this Q&A, but I think that will be a great way to close this
Okay.
conversation and to provide this general guidance for all of them regarding the time, the relevance of time in financial aid
Okay.
and Bursar's office.
Okay. So you're usually going to see your bill about 6 to 8 weeks prior to the beginning of the semester. For this coming semester, we're going to start processing the bills around the 6th of July, so sometime next week for this coming fall. In future semesters, about 6 to 8 weeks before the first day of class. So for the spring, it would be sometime in, December, and then in the summer, it's usually like the first part of May is when we do the billing. So even if you register early, you're not going to be able to see those charges until it gets closer to the time for the semester. And we do not expect you to pay those until, the bills show up. So we don't want you trying to make an early payment before we process the bills. So again, usually about 6 to 8 weeks before class, the first day of class is when you're going to see the bills. You're going to see financial aid. If you're receiving financial aid, you're going to be able to see that in your financial aid tile in your Orion account by clicking in that and making sure you go under awards. Make sure you accept any awards that you see there that you need to accept. Make sure you complete any checklist items that are required by the financial aid office for your money to disperse to your bill. And then the financial aid office will start dispersing those within a few days of the first day of class. So maybe a couple of days before or right around the first day of classes each semester. If you are receiving financial aid, you will receive an extended payment deadline. You want to make sure that you see that extended payment deadline on your Bursar tile. It will be right on the front screen. Once your bill is out and ready, once we process bills, it'll show up right on that Bursar tile. You're not going to see it today, even if you've registered. We're going to wait till the bill is out, and then you're going to see that payment deadline. If you think the payment deadline on your Bursar tile is incorrect, you want to check with us or the financial aid office if you're expecting financial aid and you need the extended deadline. If you think something's wrong on it, you always want to reach out to us. Don't just assume because you know you're receiving financial aid. You don't just assume everything's correct. You want to keep up and be responsible for your own account and make sure that you get that extension if you're expecting financial aid. So that's basically the process. That's where you're going to go from here, especially for the fall semester. And if you have any questions about anything we talked about, even if I've already went over it, several times and you're still, unclear, please send us an email at Bursar at UT Dallas. That's BURSAR at utdallas.edu. And we have full-time staff members there that will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Remember, they're not going to give you a tuition estimate. You're going to need to do that yourself. They're going to direct you right over to the tuition estimate page in Orion, but they will give you instructions on how to do that. So please feel free to contact us if you have any further questions.
Lisa Davis from Bursar's office, thank you very much. We just published again the contact information of your office and as well the link for the ICP YouTube channel where this information session will be published in a few hours. Lisa, okay. Thank you again for your time. It's a great collaboration. ICP team, really thank you. And for all the students out there in the audience, thank you for participating. We look forward to hosting you in the next info session, which is going to be next Tuesday, July the 5th. And this is going to be hosted by the Indian Student Association. It's an amazing student organization here on campus that provides a great logistical and guidance, logistical support and guidance to new international students as well. So Lisa, thank you very much. As well, I would like to thank Anthony Cahill, Intercultural Programs Program Coordinator, who was facilitating the technical support for the success of this info session. Thank you again. Have a great morning, evening, night around the world. Thank you.